Fear is a constant. Fear is a constant. Sadness comes and goes because sadness is associated with what? The past. And it only hits you when you remember it, when you think about it. When you're not thinking about it, you're thinking about the future. It's not fear that's bothering you, or it's not sadness that's bothering you, it's fear that's bothering you. Now this is remarkable because if you notice from the very base analysis of this phrase, لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون, the word khawf that Allah used, there's no fear on them. He used a noun for fear. And a noun is considered permanent, timeless, constant. So Allah used grammatically the constant version of a word for fear, just like fear itself is constant, the noun is constant. And when He talked about sadness, which comes and goes, He used a verb, which is actually, it corresponds to the human sentiment of sadness because we're not always sad. It hits us, then it goes away, and it hits us, and it goes away. But fears are actually literally, they are fears that are conscious and subconscious that are constantly driving your actions. Everything from going to work and pursuing your education, there are fears that are driving a lot of these decisions, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal accurately describes what's going on inside the heart and the mind of a human being. What is the constant and what takes priority and what comes and goes. That's the first observation. The second is actually specifically about fear. The strange language that I translate is there is no fear on them. There is no fear on them, or there won't be any fear on them. That's not very clear English. And I do that on purpose because Allah says, لا خوف عليهم. There's no fear, literally there's no fear on them. I want you to understand from an English point of view. I won't get into Arabic linguistics, but from an English point of view. There's a big difference between they're not afraid and there's no fear on them. There's actually a huge difference. Feeling afraid may not be a bad thing actually. Allah describes believers, يَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا, they're afraid of a day. إِنَّا نَخَافُ مِنْ رَبِّنَا يَوْمًا عَبُوسًا قَمْطَرِيرًا. We are afraid of a day that is full of great sadness. يَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا تَتَقَلَّبُ فِيهِ الْقُلُوبُ وَالْأَبْصَارُ. They are afraid of a day where hearts and eyes are going to be flipped over. So Allah Azza wa Jal describes feeling afraid as actually a good thing. But then how do we reconcile? Allah says, those who follow my guidance, there's not going to be any fear on them. Allah is actually saying, even if they will be feeling afraid, and they will be feeling afraid, there's no real danger on them. What's more important? To deny that you won't feel afraid, or to make sure there's no fear on you? What do you think is bigger priority? Make sure there's no fear on you actually means make sure you're not in any kind of danger. That is the relief Allah offers us in the first phrase, there is no fear on them. So what relief is the believer being given? They're not the ones that are going to feel sadness. Actually, feeling sadness is the ultimate pain, as opposed to feeling fear. Feeling fear can even be healthy, but feeling sadness is a very painful thing. It's a very powerful, difficult experience in life. As a matter of fact, it can even rival or surpass physical pain. That's how bad sadness can become. And so Allah Azza wa Jalla says they're not going to be the ones that are going to experience sadness. Notice Allah says, لا هم يحزنون. الإثبات على غير الفاعل. Another technical Arabic principle. Instead of saying لا يحزنون, they won't be sad. No. They're not the ones that are going to be sad. Almost saying in parentheses, there are others that are going to be sad, not them. This is a little bit about لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. I want to wrap this discussion up with just one reminder to you once again. Allah Azza wa Jal did not deny that fear won't happen ever. Allah didn't deny that. All Allah denied is that there won't be ever any real danger on the believer. Their deeds, their relationship with Allah, their guidance will be kept safe so long as they show loyalty to Allah. And they will be relieved from true sadness. I give this as a sincere bit of advice to everybody in the room. Allah Azza wa Jal created human beings in difficulty. In this life, there will be some kind of difficulty. Some of you are going to go through financial difficulty. Some of you are going to go through physical health difficulty. Some of you are going to go through emotional difficulty. That difficulty will come from people around you, your loved ones, your friends, your siblings, your spouse, your children, your parents, your grandparents, your uncle. There's going to be people in your life that are very close to you, and there's no escape from those people because they're a part of your life, and they're going to bring you a lot of grief. And they have before, and they continue to some of them. And there are certain problems in your life that have stuck with you for a very long time. Allah is telling us that one of the most powerful ways you and I are going to be able to cope with our sadness may not disappear. Well, we're going to be able to cope with it. We're going to be able to deal with it. We're going to be able to get past it, and we're not going to allow it to paralyze us. And what is going to help us is the word of Allah.